Thank you for joining me again today, my friends. Today we begin the book of Matthew, chapters 1 through 4. Now, Matthew was a tax collector, and they were considered sinners. And yet Jesus came along and saw potential in him and called him to follow him. And we've got some great words in this book. Now, in chapter number 1, we have the genealogy of Christ. And Matthew wrote this book to Jewish people. They understood the genealogy. And so we have the genealogy of Christ. We have the birth of Jesus. In chapter number 2, we have the wise men coming about a year and a half, maybe 2 years later, coming and worshiping him with the gold and the frankincense and the myrrh. In chapter 3, we have the baptism of Jesus in water. But in chapter number 4 is where I really want to focus our attention. It's the temptation of Christ. Now, the scripture says that Jesus was led into the wilderness by the Spirit. But I want to say that wherever the Spirit leads, it doesn't mean it's always going to be comfortable and easy. In this wilderness, Jesus, he fasted for 40 days and 40 nights. And at the end of that, the devil tempted him, not God. The devil tempted him. There were 3 temptations that I think that are important for us to realize and recognize. Number 1, the devil tempted him with the fleshly desires. He said Jesus was hungry, you see, and he said in verse number 3, he says, if you're the Son of God, command these stones to become loaves of bread. But Jesus said, man shall not live by bread alone, but every word that comes from the mouth of God. Jesus didn't cater to that fleshly desire. And friends, I want to say that oftentimes we are tempted by the enemy to yield to the fleshly desires, and we have to resist that and keep our flesh under control. Secondly, the devil tempted him with authority and the power that he had. It said this, he took him to the top of the pinnacle of the temple. In verse number 6, the devil said, if you're the Son of God, throw yourself down, for it is written, he will command his angels concerning you. Now, the devil used scripture. The problem is, and he'll use it to you and I too, the problem is he takes it out of context. Jesus kept it in context. In verse number 7, he says, it's written, you shall not put the Lord your God to test. So Jesus did not use the power and authority that he had to cater to the devil's temptation. But thirdly, he tempted him. In verse number 9, he said to him, all these things I will give you. He took him, showed him all the kingdoms of the world, and he said, I'll give them to you if you'll fall down and worship me. And Jesus, again, he did not yield to the temptation of all the possessions of the world, and you and I can't either. Jesus could have, but he did not. He resisted. He said, you shall worship the Lord your God only, and him only shall you serve. So friends, I encourage you, don't yield to the temptations of the devil. God bless. Bye-bye.